Yes, good morning and welcome to Citizen Extra, the Friday edition with me, Fred Indimuli. Now, 31 days to the elections, today promises to be quite an eventful and crucial day with two anticipated court rulings that could potentially alter plans towards election day. Now, a three-judge bench will this afternoon give a ruling on NASA's challenge of the award of a ballot printing tender to Dubai-based firm Al Ghurair. Now, interestingly, Al Ghurair has already started printing the ballot papers even before the court's verdict. What would this mean if the court nullifies that tender? Another court ruling is expected this morning and has to do with the anticipated presidential debate slated for Monday. One of the candidates moved to court arguing that the exercise was discriminatory and should be stopped. It will be interesting to see how that case goes. Now, meanwhile, Jubilee MPs are expected to respond to NASA's demands that Parliament be recalled to debate a KPMG report on the audit of the voters register. Now, that report is already available on the IEBC's website. I do have a copy with me here, and it reveals the existence of over 2.9 million inaccuracies, as well as about 456,000 irregularities on the roll of voters. IEBC nonetheless says the list is final as it is and will not be altered due to time constraints. Also happening today, the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya is holding national prayers for peace at Uhuru Park grounds this morning. Top leaders from both sides of the political divide have been invited to attend. It is, however, not clear whether or not President Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA leader Raila Odinga will be in attendance. Time now for me to introduce my panelists this morning. I'm privileged to have in studio Gabriel Muduma, Michael Lagwanda and Dunstan Omari, very familiar faces on Citizen Extra. Good to have you, gentlemen. Karibu sana. Before we even discuss this audit report from KPMG, let's link up with our reporter in Eldoret, John Wanyama, for a news update. A very good morning to you, John. What's happening in Eldoret this morning?
Good morning, Indimuli, and here in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, we have a series of events that are going on today. The first is Chief Justice Maraga, who is here just doing inspection in low courts and high courts to see how prepared they are before and after elections. After here, the CJ will see him now heading to Kapsabet, Nandi County, also to do the same inspection. In the Muli, also, something that's also going to happen here today in Eldoret, a nurses strike that have been on strike now today, I think is 1 month and 5 days since Moi Chisgan Referral Hospital began their nurses strike. And the situation in the hospital is terrible and pathetic as we speak now. And as you remember, in the Muli, President is also expected here in Uasin Gishu County for economic special zone industrial companies that will be built here in Uasin Gishu. A privately owned company, investor who, in conjunction with a Chinese company, they are going to put up an investment of worth 207 billion Kenyan shilling project that is going. We maybe will see it employing for over 40,000. It will be creating jobs over 40,000 directly and over 150 jobs indirectly. So any moment from now, I think at around 12, the county is expecting and is already prepared to welcome President Uhuru Kenyatta for a groundbreaking ceremony that will be happening at Plateau Center in Uasin Gishu County. The first project, or the first phase of this project, is going to be done on a 700 acres of land, and this one we are going to see several companies build on the same ground. And in the Muli, as we have gone through the same project, they are saying that this place is going to have several industries, where the only one in Africa where people are going to come here to import things other than going to China, other than going to other abroad countries to import their things that they want to bring here in the country. So we are going to see the first one kind of its own here in Uasin Gishu County, where people, manufacturers of phones, manufacturers of vehicles, and mention them here in Uasin Gishu County. That has never ever been witnessed anywhere in Africa, to be specific. In the Muli, most people here are very excited for this project to come here in the home and the city of champions, Uasin Gishu County, and we are expecting to see whether will this materialize or it will remain a dream. But most people are so much enthusiastic and very much we're hoping that this project will kick off any time from now. Indimuli.
Thank you, John. John Wanyama there live from Eldoret, of course, briefing us about the happenings in Eldoret. The expected launch or groundbreaking ceremony of the Special Economic Zone by President Uhuru Kenyatta later today. I guess that's where the president will be. So we do not know, we're still not sure if he'll be attending the evangelical prayers at Uhuru Park. Thank you so much, John. We now want to link up with Laura Otieno in Kisumu for an update of what's happening in the Lakeside City. Good morning, Laura. What's happening there?
Yes, thank you very much. A very good morning to you back at the Communication Center. And here in the county of Kisumu, there's not much going on in Mata's campaign. Of course, we had Professor Anyang' Nyong'o unveil his manifesto late last week, and also the senatorial aspirants. But apart from that, we haven't really seen any Matters-like activities concerning campaigns. Of course, none of the aspirants has really taken to the streets to drum up support for themselves come August 8th. But today, we will we'll be attending a press conference called by Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o, who's the ODM aspirant for the governor's seat here in Kisumu, and of course we'll be bringing you an update on the same. Back to you, studio.
Laura Otieno all the way in Kisumu, the Lakeside City, giving us an update of the happenings there. Of course, we'll be linking up with our reporters elsewhere around the country for updates throughout the day with regard to the campaign trail, as well as other news updates. Back to studio, let's now discuss the big issues of the day. Gentlemen, a lot is happening today. We do expect two rulings in court, one to do with the award of the ballot paper printing tender rather to Al Ghurair. That ruling is expected in the afternoon. This morning, of course, another court ruling in relation to the anticipated presidential debate, which is slated for Monday, is expected as well. We'll be discussing that one, especially the one to do with the ballot printing later on, because we do understand Al Ghurair has already started printing the ballot papers even before the court gives its verdict on that particular matter. What does that mean? But before that, let's now discuss this issue to do with the voter register row. NASA has already demanded that Parliament should be recalled to debate the KPMG audit report on voters register. IEBC insists it is satisfied with the audit and that the register will not be altered, as well as a list of candidates due to time constraints. But a quick look at the KPMG report, which is already available on the IEBC website. You can actually download it, go through it yourself. And I'm talking about the real document, so I'll go straight to page 4 of that document, where they have a table under the title Inaccuracies in the Register of Voters. They talk about gender and date of birth do not match. That's one inaccuracy. Against IDs, about 12,640 cases. Against passports, 33 cases. Date of birth does not match against ID, 781,000 cases. Inconsistencies in gender against IDs, this is where a woman is referred to as a male or vice versa, 259,000 cases. Inconsistencies in names and other permutation of particulars, a total of 1,833,153 cases. In total, 2.9 million, actually over 2.9 million, because it's 2,900,089 cases of inaccuracies. That's not all. Still on that same page, there's also another headline, irregularities in the register of voters. It talks about 171,476 voters whose details of IDs could not be found in the data provided by the National Registration Bureau. 17,523 voters whose details could not be found in the data on passports provided by the Directorate of Immigration. Of these, 98 were confirmed to be diplomatic passports whose data has yet to be provided. 264,000 records in the register of voters with A, duplicate IDs or passports, B, out-of-range details in the register of voters, e.g. ID number, date of birth or names appear as numbers, and another 2,610 voters who have registered with both an ID and a passport. Now in total, these are quite a number of cases. They go beyond almost 3.5 million cases of inaccuracies or irregularities in the voters' roll. Do you think the IEBC is right to say this list will stay as it is and we go to the election as it is? Dunstan Omari, let's start with you.
It is Hayawi Hua. the IBC has been very reluctant to release these reports until NASA threatened to go to court or to take serious actions. Then they have published on their website. The IBC chair, after publishing this report, has put it with finality that there can never be any alterations, there can never be any changes. That is final. Fred, what does the law say? Once the report has been concluded, the report was supposed to be submitted to the IBC, the IBC to submit that report to Parliament, Parliament to discuss that report, adopt it, reject it, approve it, then the IBC moves ahead to do the corrections as per the final document.
If I may get you right, are you saying that NASA is therefore just demanding a process that should have actually been the way to go?
NASA is demanding for a legal process that is within the law. And when the IBC chair comes on and telling people on national television that they will not do anything, he should know the law. NASA definitely will go to court to force the IBC chair to do what the law demands him to do. So in my own view, I think that the reason as to why Kenyans are saying the IEBC has an ulterior motive to rig these elections is coming out clearly and definitely the way the conduct of the IBC is. Fed, things are going to be hotter and hotter. And I'm only telling the IBC chair plus the CEO that let them rig the law. Being called an independent body does not mean that it is independent from the law. It is independent within the operations of the Constitution and within the operations of the Elections Act. So in my own view, issues have been raised. 3 million votes can tilt the elections anywhere.
And you know, Danster, we've not even talked about the issue that NASA has really put a lot of emphasis on, and that's the number of deceased persons in the register of voters. These numbers we've just been talking about, the 3.5 million, is just about the inaccuracies and irregularities, IDs, names not registered correctly.
Yes, What's what I'm saying, when you look at globally, when this audit of the dead voters and the registers have been done, always the number comes down to around between 10 to 15% of the total number of the registered voters. When IBC is telling us that the only dead voters are 88,000 Kenyans, from 2012 to 2017, only 88,000 Kenyans have died who are above 18. Is it reasonable? It is public knowledge that in every day in this country we bury more than almost 100,000 Kenyans.
And in a short while I'll read you that paragraph by KPMG. I'm referring to the audit report from KPMG, nothing else, on deceased persons in the register of voters. But still on this issue of the irregularities and inaccuracies, Michael Agwanda, do you think it's right for IEBC to insist that this register cannot be touched?
Thanks, Fred. First of all, I want to say that KPMG was given a job to do, and on the basis that their recommendation will be discussed within IBC and even Parliament, and recommendation implemented. I don't think we paid KMG with taxpayers' money so that they can just forward a report and nobody implements on it. But I want to say something. In these disparities, where the details, in fact it's written down there, where the details in the register are confirmed to be invalid, this will be expunged from the register. In other words, this should be a serious discussion as to whether these votes are supposed to be there or not. Remember that these people that we are looking at here are 3 million people. Raila Odinga lost the presidency with about 700,000 people only. And if it is 700,000 against 300 people that their names are in the register, in the register without, for them, in the register with mistakes. And IBC is not saying we have to change this. And what surprised me more than anything else is when the chairman of IBC goes there and says there's nothing you can do on the register. With 3 million people, if there are mistakes, they had a whole month of people checking on whether their details in the system were correct. The question is, once they found that there were issues in those very confirmation of details in the register, why did they remove them?
Yes.
If people have died, why haven't they removed those names? Now, when you say 171, and I was privileged to have Commissioner Kwamboka here on Monday, but when they said that only 171,000 people are the ones that they are missed, I mean, there seemed to be some clerical error in their names or ID or something like that, and now we are finding 3 million people. The question is, why was Commissioner Kwamboka just referenced on 171 and not 3 million?
Yes.
These are fundamental questions that must be answered.
Bwana Gabriel Muduma, of course, do we stand a chance of actually remedying this issue? Because NASA has just concentrated on the number of deceased persons, but surely this appears to be quite a huge problem. Don't you think that IEBC is doing it the wrong way by insisting that nothing can be done?
Thank you, Fred. Number one, and let me first of all agree with my two colleagues, and what they've said actually holds a lot of water. Is there a problem? Of course, there is a very huge problem, if I may say. And at this point, not only the common mwananchi or the voter, I think the two major coalitions should also start getting very worried and very concerned of the situations that we are finding ourselves into. Let me quote something that, Fred, you've been reading, and this is actually from the report that you've just been, the excerpts that you've been getting from the report. And I'd like to deal the footnote on actually page 4, which says, the results of the audit suggest that many of these could have been caused by clerical error. Now, when you look at the clerical error, Fred, and you look at the grand scheme of things that one clerical error can do, this could be just a digit, which disenfranchises you from, if the ID is a unique identifier that we are using to say Bwana Omari will vote, and we make a clerical error on a number, that means you have disenfranchised Omari. In fact, half of the time you may find his name is somewhere in Webuye, unlike where he voted. So this is a very serious mistake, and one digit you know very well. If you're using a unique identifier as an ID, it can actually create a serious wreck on a voter register. So this is something I think, if I was to be asked, I would hold the view that everything should stop and we actually sensitize people and go deep to the core. And I'm talking about seriously looking on how we can work on this on this report. Like Michael Agwanda has said, we gave KPMG the mandate to come up with a report. That report, we must work upon it. And then, Ndimuli, to answer your question, do we have a problem? We have a major problem. And this is not about the Jubilee or NASA. This is an independent body mandated by our constitution and paid by the taxpayer.
And Gabriel Muduma, that's a problem, because any of these problems and any of these issues being raised are now being seen through the prism of either NASA or Jubilee. So if you're against IEBC, you seem to be on this particular side. If you support IEBC, you're on this other side. But surely, when there is a problem, I think, don't you think that NASA and Jubilee should just stay away, or rather come together and help sort it out?
You see, again, that's the price of our instrument, Fred. But, these two coalitions, have the wide base of support. So where they are coming in, they are what I would call the primary stakeholders, even though you have voters who are lining along these two major coalitions. So I would be concerned from both ends. When you talk about people dying, when you talk about a list of people showing up who are dead voters, it does not only happen in NASA zones only. Yes. Also, in the Jubilee zones, it also happens. So I'd be very concerned if I was in Jubilee. I would also be very concerned if I was in NASA. The problem that we seem to be doing, and the problem what majority of what you'd call the party enthusiasts are doing, they'll point out to the other coalition. If there's something with the IEBC, you'll see them pointing their hand to Jubilee, given the fact that they are the administration in government. And
just before we move on, I'd like to ask, do you agree probably with NASA that this report should actually be taken to Parliament be recalled to study the report, because at least there both sides of the political divide are represented and they could actually come up with a solution?
Fred, it's a catch-22. It's a catch-22. It needs to go to Parliament, yes. What does that, what does that perturb? Our good friend Wakili will tell you that you need to rally up to have Parliament back. All right, and after that they need to table it, they need to debate it. It can take a long time, before they start their infightings, before the lobbyists come in, before they start throwing water bottles at each other. we will be actually entering to the zones of August 8th. So the time, the time here, I mean, is really also something that we don't have on our end. Okay. So what must give? What must we take? One thing I can go out by saying, Fred, is that as much as we are not talking about having time, as much as we are talking about having no time, as much as we are talking that this report has to be implemented, we must also agree that we don't have the time. And now, this is where IBC, Hassan-led commission, I think from where they are actually laughing. Yes. I think this is what we are talking about. Let's now take a look at the issue about the deceased persons who are still on the register of voters. But Omari, KPMG seems to agree with you. Now, allow me to just read this paragraph. Yes. According to the audit by KPMG, a total of 11,104 deceased voters had been expunged, 11,000 from the register since 2012. And of these, only 30 have been expunged since 2013. Yeah? KPMG obtained the number of expected and registered deaths from the Civil Registration Department, and based on those details requested the CRS to provide the full list of deceased persons based on registered deaths. At the time of submitting this audit report, KPMG had established that the number of expected deaths for all ages for the period 2012 to 2016 is expected to be 2,390,000, but only 970,895 had been registered. In the period November 2012 to December 2016, in the expected deaths, CRS data indicates 1.5 million were aged 18 years and above, and of these, only 621,000 were registered. Now, at the time of preparing the report, CRS provided KPMG with a list containing 435,000 deceased persons of all ages. Of these, only 196,000 records had complete details, which could be used as a reference to the register. On that basis, KPMG have identified 92,000 deceased persons whose IDs and the names matched within the register of voters, and whom IEBC will immediately expunge from the register. But surely, from 2.3 million expected deaths, you come down to 92,000. Omari, surely.
Fred,
this thing,
Fred,
yes?
This is the suckers. I started in Kiswahili kwamba hayawi huwa. That the IBC can look at the Kenyans on their faces and tell them that for 30,000 people are the only ones that have been expunged from 2013 to 2017.
Actually 30. Not 30,000.
Not 30 people.
30 people.
My village I've attended. I do go for the campaigns of Steve Mugaka in West Mugirango constituency. Every Friday, kisses are burying people. I've attended more than 30 funerals within a month. And that is only within one constituency. If that is one constituency, you attend more than 30 funerals. How can the IBC tell Kenyans that that is the number that they have managed to expand? Fred, the question I want also to go to, when Mutuma says that we have no time, let me tell him it is not about the time. It is what the law says. The law says the report will go to Parliament. And it is in Parliament that the sovereignty of the people is. So the question about will they be able to call Parliament?
So that is the only solution.
They have always, the Speaker has always called Parliament when Jubilee is at stake, and within a day you see Parliament sitting and the law is being amended. Why is it now that Parliament can be convened by convenience? Fred, the question of the dead voters, Kenyans are aware, and the Kenyans are aware. When Raila Odinga says his own son, Fidelis, is in the register. Fidelis, the son of Raila Odinga, who died. Even the IBC, when Kibaki was being rigged out in I think in 1997, he did say that anyway, some rigging needs some intelligence. You don't just rig as if Kenyans are not seeing. We need a proper issue. My view as a lawyer is there are 3 million contested names. There is nothing as good as the IBC to print those names that the report has. And Kenyans are told, these are the contested names.
Yes.
If you are alive, walk with your ID now. Then your name is kept. If you are not dead, if you are dead, that name is expunged. So that we do not waste time, let us have a practical way to resolve this matter.
Michael Lagwanda, don't you think that if at all we go into these elections with all these problems, over 3.5 million, that then again all the results will be up for litigation after the elections? Remember, we're probably just looking at this at the presidential level. All these candidates, MCAs, governors, members of the National Assembly, senators, could actually use these inaccuracies to claim they've been rigged out.
Fred, I want to give you a scenario. The scenario here is we are having over 2,000 people dying every year from accident. Do you know how we know that? At least anybody who has an accident has to go to the hospital and is registered, and it becomes a police case. And policeman produces this list every year that these are the numbers that have died either from as pedestrians or they've died from motor accident or something like that. Now, if you're talking about 30 people only expunged, then the truth of the matter is this list is so adulterated with so many dead people that we must ask. However, I want to bring another angle here, Fred. The angle I want to bring is this one. Look at this situation. We are only thinking and talking about the presidential aspirants, and that is Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, when we are talking about IBC and the situation in IBC now, especially the confusion. We are forgetting that this thing is going to franchise the MCS, the governors, the senators, the women rep, the MPs. And I want to bring it to this. Let me bring this into reality. What if these 3 million somehow are told that the system has not recognized you and therefore you cannot vote? You know what's going to happen? There will be an uproar in the country, and as soon as that is done, IBC will have a crisis meeting, and once they have a crisis meeting, they will say, let's now go to manual voting. Remember, that is where we are coming from. We do not want the manual voting. And IBC has been telling us, look, you will be identified with a system. And if you're not identified with that system, therefore you cannot vote. Now, if they allow in that scenario a situation where they are now saying, let's go to manual vote, that means that the agent will look at the book and will say, remember that law was changed on the 22nd of December. When Parliament convened, even though they were in recess, they came back and they passed and allowed the manual voting. Now, if that is the case, then we might simply say, look, this BVR kit is not working because 3 million are demonstrating and saying they've not been allowed to vote. For that reason, we are going manual. If we go manual, that's the rigging that this country is saying should not happen again.
So which way forward? Gabriel Muduma, you say we do not have time, but what do we do? It's 31 days to elections. Surely, are you saying that we just go headstrong and just, even though we know there's a problem?
Fred, let me actually throw a spanner in the works. Let me start by what Michael Lagwanda is saying. And you know, you may actually, I understand where he's coming from, but it may mislead people when you say, or when you talk about manual voting. People are voting manually.
Of course.
What is happening, my good friend Michael, is the registration and the BVIDs. The voter,
the verification is actually
a verification that is going through a biometric kind of an apparatus. But the other process, you will carry your papers, you'll use your biro, and it's as manual as they come. So that is very good for people to understand now. I'm throwing the spanner in the works and asking myself this. And I've dealt seriously with when it comes to databases and things like that. What would happen in the likely event that the register still has deceased people? Can an election go on? Fred, let me put it to you very clearly that yes, it can. Justified by the very same thing we are talking about, credibility of the process. If you are going to use the biometrics to ensure that when Michael Lagwanda and myself show up at the polling station, that our fingerprints are taken, all right, and a system gives us a go to go and vote. Are you saying a deceased person will show up and their fingerprinting or their biometrics will be allowed to go through? What I'm trying to put across here is, if the process has enough credibility, it does not matter who is at.
Biometrics are failed before.
Yes. Now, the problem we seem to have, even if it fails, you must show up with your ID and the credibility of the process, mark my words very well, I mean, we've done this all along. Even the banks sometimes, they use the very same thing. Even at the airports, when you go with your airport, I have seen, with your passport, I have seen so many times, and you'll agree with me, Michael. You'll agree with me that you can show up at the airport. So
let me get you right. Let me get you right. Let me get you right. You're saying that as long as the biometric voter identification kits work, we are okay.
We are okay.
But if they fail, yes, it means all these 3.5 million people will not get to vote.
And that we are going to interrogate the credibility. And that's why I'm going. Mark where I'm going. Mark where I'm going before Wakili you come in. You've been at the airport where your biometrics did not work. Yes. What is the secondary thing that they do? They take your passport, they look at you, they try to, they do the due diligence to ensure that the person whose passport you're carrying is the same person who will board the flight or who will enter their land. Alright, so let us not put it squarely that even if the BVR kits fail, that we do not have another option. Okay. Now, that is throwing a spanner in the works, but at the end of the day, Fred, what I'm calling upon is the credibility of the process. It is not about NASA or Jubilee. It is about IEBC.
Do you agree that probably Parliament should be recalled? And gentlemen, we're almost out of time. We're actually out of time. So quick comments on this.
My only point I want to tell the other guys that he says that at the airport you can go if your DNA is not there. It is a question of the register of people who have passports. There are no Ugandans in that register. There are no Zimbabweans in that register. It is only Kenyans. If you go to Barclays Bank, it is only people who have accounts in Barclays who are there. So when we talk about the BVR, we are talking of the question of the register. If the register has dead people, why should there be people who are dead? Why should there be people in the register who are children, who are below 18 years? Why should there be a register of people who are not known? It's a very simple process, Fred. Unless the authenticity of the register is above Caesar's wife, there is nothing that any Kenyan is going to say that I trust a machine. Machines collapse. A machine can only verify an authentic register. Yesterday I was here on my opinion count, and I listened to Sandu, the manager of the ICT, and he was telling us that they have two ways to identify people. One, through the biometric details, and two, a complementary arrangement. That complementary arrangement, according to the IBC, is not manual. It should come out very clearly. There is no manual identification of voters. It is a complementary system using the BVR, where they pick the details of the national identity card that somebody will present it, and behind your national identity card there is a number written MRZ. Those numbers are captured just like you go to NACMAT, you put that the barcode, and the details come. Those details, once they find that the ID is within the BVR kit, then they will allow you to vote. And I ask this question: if today I'm not a registered voter, or if today I'm 17 years old and I know my father died, the ID is with me, I carry my father's dead ID. My father died in 1988. I carry my father's ID. His name is still in the register. They look at there, they find that, yes, my father Elkana Mugaka from West Mugrano constituency is a registered voter. Yes. We agree between the supervisor of IBC, the agents, and the people there that I vote. The human conflict. Yes. How will rigging be stopped? And that is the question I'm saying. In Jubilee Stronghold, there will be no agents for NASA. In NASA Stronghold, there will be no agents for Jubilee. What is likely to happen? There is likely to be human agreement, and by conniving, the voter, the will of the general people will not be there. But and that is why Kenyans wanted a clean register.
Yes. And Omari, you say the only solution is yes, take the report to Parliament as it is, then let Parliament decide.
That is the law. It's not Omari saying, that is the law. And I'm telling IBC chair, today definitely people are moving to court to demand the implementation of the Elections Act. It's not about somebody's wish. It's not about somebody deciding what to do. It is about the law. And if, in the wisdom of the IEBC, and I'm asking, Fred, do we still have the Attorney General of this nation who should be advising the government agencies like the IEBC? He's gone quiet. The mortician has disappeared. And you'll see him in court defending wrong decisions, and every other time the IEBC will get it wrong.
And that's a lawyer telling it to us as it is. Brother Michael Agwana, do you have anything to add after Dunstan?
I want to let my brother Gabriel know that we've gone through this. This country has gone through this. We've had a BVR kit that really failed at 8 o'clock in the morning, and this one might just fail because these are machines that are made by human beings, and it could be made to fail. And for that reason, I'm saying that if they fail, as you know, I'm thinking that it could fail. And everybody will agree with me that it could fail. Then we will resort to not only manual identification, but even manual voting, which is in the law. Now, that's where the situation becomes really complicated, because people will connive and agree in that room, and I've been in that process. They will agree with the presiding officer and agree with the agent and say, this is what we need to do. There are 3 million people there that we seem not to be synchronizing their identification with what we have here, and therefore let's allow them to vote. That's where you'll find multiple people coming to vote, because there are groups of people that are in the system that the system cannot correctly identify them. And so I will agree with Omari. If there are 3 million people with discrepancies, let it be fixed now before we go to the election, so that we do not go to the election with 3 million people that the system might say you are not voting, and then an uproar in the entire country. So this needs to be checked now. Now, for the chairman of IEBC to come out and say we cannot change, this is the final list, that's a shoot on the foot. What you're trying to tell people is you're dictating who votes and who doesn't vote, whether they have legitimate documentation or not. Remember, one number alone, a difference of a number alone in your ID, you will not be given money at the bank, because that's not your ID. And if your name is missing 1 or 2 letters only, why will IEBC accept this? While if you go to any financial institution, they will tell you, no, there's a discrepancy here. So what was the reason why we were supposed to audit this report if we cannot implement the discrepancies that are now being realized? And why would somebody say that they cannot make the correction? Yet it is our taxpayers' money that is supposed to implement this thing. IEBC is not coming out clearly to say that I don't have money to do this. No, they have the money. So why can't they make this thing a serious issue and make sure that the correction is done?
Final comment on this before we move to another discussion.
By the Fred, I totally agree with the two gentlemen what they are saying. And by the way, I am not watering down what you're saying. All I am saying is this: we are the people who actually started. Michael, we are the people who started working and negating the very same substance that we are talking to IEBC about. When you're talking about ballot stuffing, which I know would happen if we are going to disenfranchise, or not we, if IEBC is going to disenfranchise about 3 million people. You know the reason why? Even if I was to go to a polling station and I find my ID has issues, and probably I've checked and rechecked, and I was told I'm okay to go and vote, and that last day there are issues, then I can tell you it's not going to have a happy ending. But having said that, Fred, let us not get away from the fact that if anything is going to go wrong, I keep talking about the credibility of the process. It will be mainly because of the voter, the uproar of the voter. We started by showing, and Omari, I want you to get me on this one. We started by following the law. When we said that we needed the IEBC commissioners out, you remember there was no law followed. We went and did something called a legal political bypass, if you will. Is that what is going to happen this time round? Because we showed everybody that actually we can mess up the constitution, we can mutilate it, get people out of office. And by the way, Omari, what will ensure that somebody does not go to court? Because this is what's going to happen, Fred. I can guarantee you. Sooner or later, you'll start hearing people say, Ezra and the chairman cannot run this election, and we'll go back to the streets. I am telling you, this is something that will happen. But in finality, I agree with both you gentlemen. This is a very serious matter. When you're talking about clerical errors, in a database that is supposed to, I mean, in an election where we know actually the stakes are too high. We cannot go in an election with such mistakes.
Yes, of course, NASA has demanded that Parliament be recalled to debate this KPMG audit report on the voters' roll. A total of 3,500,000 of inaccuracies and irregularities, as quoted by KPMG on the audit report that's already uploaded on the website of IEBC. You can download it and read it for yourself. That is besides what NASA is complaining about, and NASA's problem mainly has to do with the number of deceased persons in the register of voters, meaning the number that we're talking about are well beyond the 3.5 that we've just been discussing. That matter, we'll just wait and see what happens. Something else that's happening today is a ruling, and we expect this later in the afternoon. A three-judge bench is giving a ruling on NASA's challenge of the award of a ballot printing tender to Dubai-based firm Al Ghurair. Now, interestingly, Al Ghurair has already started printing the same ballot papers even before the court's verdict, and our reporter Sam Gituku is already in Dubai and actually has the evidence that the printing has started. Let's see the story as filed by Sam Gituku.
I don't.
It's a highly sensitive engagement for the Al Ghurair printing firm, the procurement of 124 million pieces of paper that hold the future of Kenya. With 14,523 candidates set to participate in the election, it all begins at the printing firm preparing the ballot paper templates for 1,800 seats on offer. A tedious and diligent demanding process to ensure accuracy of candidate details, including names, images and symbols.
So they fix any of those errors and they try to fix those.
The printed ballot papers have to be serialized with 2 sets of numbers for security. They are also embossed with unique symbols for identification and differentiation from fake ballot papers. The sheets of ballots are then cut into singular ballot papers, which are then bound into booklets, each containing 50 ballot leaves. These are stacked specific to polling stations, each carrying a maximum of 700 papers for not more than 700 voters per polling station. The next process involves collating of ballot booklets of all polling stations in a constituency, stacked together for each of the positions. This pallet, for instance, is for Bobasi constituency in Kisii County for the governorship race.
We expect the shipment to start on the 15th. On 15th of July, that's when we expect them to start the shipping. So they have about 10 planes which are supposed to, to take the ballot papers.
According to Al Ghurair, the paper on which the ballot papers have been printed is specific to the Kenyan election project, and it took 1 to 2 months to prepare. The paper processing involves 2 security features, unique watermark and fiber chips, only visible on exposure to ultraviolet light. All ballot papers are also printed with anti-copy patterns, meaning any attempt to photocopy would come out with the word copy on it. So far, most of the ballot papers for the governorship, Senate and woman representative seats have been printed out, save for some with pending court cases. Majority of governorship ballot papers have also been packaged, ready for shipping to Kenya.
So we've been here for the last few days, checking on the printing process, checking on some of the security features, and checking that actually the ballot papers are correct. I would say that 50% of the work is already done.
32 days to the general election, and IEBC remains confident that the work that has already begun in terms of printing these ballot papers will be concluded in good time for the national exercise. But there is the case in court, and whichever way it goes, it's going to impact either positively or negatively on the legal standing of these ballot pellets. And until that time, my name is Sam Gituku from the Al Ghurair printing and publishing firm in Dubai.
We're talking facts here, and we do have a lawyer with us in studio, Dunstan Omari. What does it mean? The court ruling could go either way. We cannot determine what the three-judge bench will decide. What does that mean, if at all the ruling does not go IEBC's way?
Fred, if IEBC was consulting properly admitted lawyers, they could not be doing what they are doing today at Dubai. A decision is being awaited today. the IBC goes and starts litigating their case through Citizen TV, through Kenyan media, that already we have printed the papers. That already is a sub judice. That is holding another court process in Dubai. If you listened for a while when the Deputy Chief Justice and the Chief Justice were in Mombasa for the colloquium of judges, the argument they were saying, how can the IBC continue printing the papers when already there is a case in court? And today, yesterday, the IBC chair has said, even the cases that are in court, whatever decision that comes out, they will not include anybody. Whether the court finds that Omari is not the right candidate to be in the ballot and Omari must be removed, then you find out that the IBC has already said they will not respect the court. In my own view, the court is going to take what in law is called a judicial notice. That what the two litigants, the IBC and Al Ghurair, have no respect for the courts. They have impunity and they can proceed the way they want. And they can convince the whole world that, forget about the court process, look at what we have been doing. This is optics. This is purely for the showbiz. My view, and I'm telling you, the courts are going to take, as a lawyer I will not discuss the issues of what the court are going to decide, but I'm definitely going to tell you the courts are going to take judicial notice, and the decision that is going to come out today at 2:30 or at 2 will be a big shocker for the IBC and a big shocker for Al Ghurair. My position as a lawyer, I'm restrained to discuss a matter that is already pending judgment. But
yes,
that what we have seen today, if ever, and the chair of the IBC is a serious lawyer. I've asked, where is the Mortician, the Attorney General, who could have advised them that once this matter is there, in court they could have requested the court to move to Dubai to see the processing. If the court went to Dubai and the court observed that process, then the court would be convinced that the process is good. But taking people on our taxpayers' money to go and stay in Dubai for 3 weeks, and yet you cannot remove the name of a dead voter. My voters who have died in West Mugirango, it is a serious anomaly and a serious wastage of taxpayers' money.
But even if the ruling goes the IEBC's way, Bwana Michael Agwanda, will it not be seen, as Bwana Omari says, that this you do not respect the courts, and the IEBC would actually be in a collision course with the judiciary?
First, I want to thank Royal Media for sending a journalist out there to uncover for us what perhaps we did not know. We thought that these were just words, but the chairman of IBC, being a lawyer, will respect court process and court cases. And secondly, I want to say sub judice and sub judice indeed it is. To an extent where basically you know that the court is going on, I mean the court case is going on, and you still allow the public to see the kind of impunity that this country wants to run away from being exercised before the glare of the media. Not only the media, the entire world. Remember, anything that is happening in Dubai or even Kenya, once it's on TV, it is the entire world. How do we want to respect IBC in this case to be people and men that have been given the role and the responsibility to conduct a free and fair election if they cannot respect the court cases? If they cannot respect the court ruling that was supposed to come today. You know, Fred, my advice to NASA, specifically on this case, is perhaps go to that court in as many numbers as they can, and then walk out in protest and say, we are dealing with a guy here who really doesn't respect the constitution of this country. We are dealing with a guy here who does not respect the lawyers. We are dealing with a guy here who does not respect the judges. And for that reason, why are we even in this court in the first place? We are seeing a situation, and I will reiterate what my brother Omari is saying. Look, if you cannot expunge the name of million people. What business do you have being in the business of printing ballot papers with names that some of them have not even been ruled? The Chief Justice himself said, even that very morning, 3 days ago when he was speaking in Mombasa, he said, I've just constituted a bench that is going to hear some of the nomination petitions. That means I urge IBC to go slow on the printing of the ballot papers. It is in record. Now, if the Chief Justice that we all run to when we will have a problem after the election is saying, these people do not even respect what I say, where do you think this court case is going to end? We are shooting ourselves in the foot, and the IBC must up the game if they want to be in existence and if they want to be trusted.
Gabriel Muduma, of course, IEBC also needs the judiciary at some point. You're going against the Chief Justice so glaringly. Don't you think that there, even Wafula Chebukati as a lawyer should have at least considered something?
Actually, two people have taken what you call a laissez-faire approach. And this is to say, you know what, here's the Chief Justice. If he was not okay with this process, he would have issued a ruling. Stop printing the ballot papers. And Omar is here, he would have told you, you are the Chief Justice. Issue a serious and a stern ruling. Stop it until we have reached, until a decision has been made to that effect. So the laissez approach that our good friend IEBC are doing is that, you know, there's no court ruling. Continue. Even though from where the likes of people with a serious legal advantage like Omar would be talking from, they are telling you this is somebody who does not respect our judicial system, and to an effect he is right, because really sometimes there's what you call the goodwill. All right, you need these people to be friendly to you. Half of the time, you know, everybody is taking you to court right, left. So at the very least, the person who you need to engage with, who can actually issue, you know, some friendly, you know, issues to you, is the person you want to burn. So really, I think that's the biggest mistake that IEBC has done. Coming to the issue of the printing of the ballot papers, I think everybody is eyeing at the presidential ballots. These other ones, I don't think anybody will make a lot of noise on it, because Al Ghurair, they don't care. You know, they were given a job, they fulfilled what was asked of them, and they've gone ahead with printing. And let me tell you, unless they are not paid, where they'll move to court, and probably our rating economically can be affected, we will pay them, because, you know, IBC must actually pay them to the last cent. They got a job, they don't care what we are, you know, what we are fighting, whether it's the law courts or whatever it is. Them, they did their job. So IEBC here has actually a bigger fight to fight. And the only problem I see emanating from the entire this process, IEBC may actually be left somewhere in a very lonely island where everybody will run away, including the political parties. That will not be a nice place to be in. And you've just heard what Michael has said. Go to the courts, you know, and then walk out in protest. I told you earlier on, Fred, that is where we are heading. You will see somebody go to court and say the IEBC, the chairman and the CEO, don't have a mandate to oversee on this election. But it is heading there.
We should also try and look at it from the IEBC's perspective. They're running short of time. It is 31 days to the elections. Of course, they must be feeling the pressure as well that they have to deliver. Despite all this litigation, despite all the problems, despite the criticism, they still have to deliver. Whether or not the ruling is made today, they still have to deliver the ballot papers on time.
Fred, you see, IEBC have actually argued that case, and they've argued it very well. They said, you know what, we hit the ground running. We did not have a lot of time when the earlier commissioners exited office. We took it running. There were issues to do. I mean, there were so many things to do, and we have to give them the slack. But that does not nullify the fact that we have issues on our voter register. We have issues on the deceased voters. We have issues with printing the ballot papers. These are some of the few things that they must come up and talk, and not only talk but engage not only the common voter but also the court systems, because people will not stop going to court. I mean, this is a legal process, like Omari has put it. Yes, as much as we agree we are time bad, at the same time people are looking for a credible election. So it's a catch-22 from where I'm sitting.
Yes, Banawari.
When you look at comparatively the IBCs of the other worlds, Britain, went to the elections just the other day. It was a decision that was done within 1 month. Ballots were done. Over 120 million ballot papers were printed. The British voted. 2013, the ballots were printed 21 days. That's when the process started, 21 days before the 2013 elections. This crave of time is a crave simply for one reason. Al Ghurair must get the tender. The question of this company has been litigated at the procurement body, at the High Court, at the Court of Appeal. Now they have been given the direct tender. What is the urgency? Number two, already the IBC saying we have not started printing the presidential ballot papers. They will start printing the presidential ballot papers on the 18th of July. That's when they will start. So, why was there a hurry? Already they have cleared the 5 ballot papers for the governors, for the women rep, for the MCAs, for the all the other guys.
By then, could they use that in court today? Could they argue that we already 80% done with the printing? Then you have to consider that
in court, either the mortician or somebody has advised them that you can go and say that already we have done this. Therefore, what you are deciding against is an academic argument. What I'm telling you, Fred, I wouldn't want to preempt what this decision will be. But for the sake of Kenyans who are here and they watch the ICC cases, the judges at the ICC decided their cases based on the law and the pulse of the nation. Majorly, they looked at the consequences of their decision to proceed to put my President Kenyatta, and my Deputy President William Ruto for the matter to proceed. They decided that this is a mistrial for the sake of the public interest. I'm definitely going to see a judgment that will be more looking at what will be the effect of that decision to the confidence of the voters. What will be the confidence and the security risk of that decision? And if the judges, and I have great and tremendous respect for the 3 judges, they will arrive at a decision that will be for the public interest. And if I was asked, not as a lawyer, but as a layman, the position will be likely Al Ghurair will deal with the governors and downwards. And a new person is likely to be given presidential printing of ballots.
Michael Agwanda, do you think that will be a good solution, that if at all we separate the printing of the presidential ballot papers from the rest, that we could be looking at an amicable solution probably?
You know, if anything, it is only the presidential aspirants that have no contention whatsoever. Those are the only positions in this country that nobody is complaining about them. If I wanted to start, perhaps I would have started with presidential aspirants, because nobody has gone to court against them, against any of those people that are running for president of this country. However, when it comes to governors, there are still governors that are in court on the issues of nomination. When it comes to parliamentarians, there are still parliamentarians that are in court because of the botched nomination and because some people's names have been expunged from IBC list and they went to court. When it comes to MCAs, the same thing. What I'm saying, even as in Homa Bay, just the other day, one of the independent candidates, Honorable Magwanga's name, was not in the register, the government gazette. And so there was hue and cry why his name never ended up the government printers, gazette. And so the question is, if there are more cases such as Magwanga, of course Magwanga's case is being, the assurance that he'll be in the ballot box, but there are still cases for parliamentarian aspirants that are in court. Now, if you're saying that we may not even put those names again, in other words, the court process is in futility. You don't want to go that direction because People have spent millions of their money. And if you know where we're going to have a problem in terms of issues of voter apathy, but perhaps that will be the cause of this voter apathy.
Are you saying that after the elections, that yes, someone could use IEBC's actions now to go ahead despite a court ruling that is anticipated and print with the errors, that could also be grounds for litigation?
Yes, you know, that's very true. But you know what might happen again? You block me and the courts award me the leeway of being in the ballot paper, and yet the ballot papers had already been printed. I'm not in that, in the ballot papers. You know what will happen? I'll go to court and that constituency will be declared non-represented. For that reason, there will be a by-election immediately. Is that what IEBC want to put us through? Absolutely not. So I really think whatever case is in court now, IEBC has no right or authority to print those ballot papers until it is cleared. Even if it is 10 days to the election, that should be clear. Let me tell you, printing can take a day or 2 or 3 or even 5 days only. All you need is artwork, and you run it if you have the machineries like what I'm seeing these people having. But I think the contention here, which we also need to agree on, is the presidential ballot papers. Yes. This is where we are saying if it is not done credibly, then we are talking about rigging already done before even election is done. This must be agreed by both parties, by all parties, in fact the other presidential aspirants, that we agree that this is a neutral person, is a legitimate person. Let me tell you, we do not say that Al Ghurair do not have the capacity to print. We are saying that Al Ghurair was single source even after the court case that had ruled that they were awarded tender arbitrarily. And by the way, all these divides of the party did not take IEBC to court. It was another businessman that was actually had applied for the same tender, and for that reason you can see that there was legitimacy in taking them to court, and the court ruled that they needed not to get this tender. Why would they be single source again?
Very quickly, I think we are losing it. And also, as Kenyans, I think we are also taking this matter on another level altogether. We are failing to see what really matters. And that's why you hear somebody says, you know what, as long as the process is credible, you can print these ballot papers anywhere. You see, we have taken a stance, just coming from what we discussed earlier on about the voter register and people who are coming in to vote. We have infused it in our minds that every dead person in this country is a registered voter. Fred, I know so many people living, moving around, doing their businesses, 50-something-year-olds who are not registered voters. They don't even want to vote. They don't care what voting is. So, we are taking this matter too far, and not only us, it's the politicians who are twisting this thing. I'm asking you and I'm putting it to you again, and I'll hold this view as long as I live. If we are going by the narrative that we want a credible election, where does credibility begin? And that's why you had somebody, I won't say who said you can go and print the ballot in your backyard. As long as the credibility, as long as Fred shows up to vote and it's Fred who's voting, where do I care where that ballot was printed? You saw during the primaries, did we even question? But now we are twisting this too much. We are taking it too far at the expense of creating disharmony.
And if you look at it, these two issues that we've been discussing, this voter printing vis-a-vis the kind of errors that we are seeing on the voters' roll, don't you think that may just compound the whole problem?
You see, errors will always remain, and let's be factual. You have gone to a situation whereby somebody, IEBC, not IEBC, KPMG have put a very serious footnote out there saying that majority of this are clerical errors. Errors were keyed in during that were put in during the keying-in process. And this is why I say we had time to actually confirm that you are registered. If actually you meant well about this process, you'd have found out, where do I stand in the grand scheme of things? If there was an error, you ran to IEBC or go to your nearest office to find out, am I still eligible to vote? And I think if it's our solemn duty which is covered through the Constitution, we must take it serious, and we want to vote for the leaders that we want. you know, then we must take the process seriously. The credibility, Fred, I want to talk about this again, that we must know where it starts. If we all believe in this process, that it will be fair, let's not bring in the silly infighting that I'm seeing politicians do. All right, let's understand that if I show up to vote, I'm the person who votes. Let me tell you, Fred, it will not matter where we are going to print this. Look at what we are talking about, the presidential election. Why would it matter that much? It's because we have made it matter. What happens after we vote? All right, somebody put it very well the other day, actually, in your broadcast. You know, that we may not get what we want, we may get what we deserve.
Okay, I guess, gentlemen, it's time for us to take a break. That discussion has been one emotive one, but I think it is a discussion that we need to have. It is a very busy, potentially crucial day, given the kind of court rulings that we expect later today. Another ruling has to do with the presidential debate, the much anticipated debate slated for Monday. That ruling is being given this morning. In a short while we'll know what that verdict will be. We're just about to head for a break, but we may not be back to continue this discussion, so allow me to thank Denston Omari, Gabriel Mudhuma, and Michael Lagwanda. But if we come back on the break, after the break, we will definitely continue. Citizen Extra continues.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.